also to our participants here in the studio. And we are here to discuss a topic which is important in every society, and especially in Nagaland. That is the topic of education and the state of affairs, state of education in Nagaland. So I would like to introduce our panelists and our resource persons here for the day. Firstly, we have Mr. Keviseto Israel. He is the principal of the Baptist High, as well as he's a representative of the All Nagaland Private Schools Association. And we have Mr. Medo Rako, who is the OSD in the Higher Education Department, and he's to do with academics and research. And of course, we have here familiar faces, Mr. Okenjit Sandham. He's the senior journalist and editor of the Northeast Press Service. And we have Reverend Kevi Meru. He's lecturing in a Bible college in Kohima. People from different areas of life to discuss about the state of education in Nagaland. Education is the backbone of any society, and it is very essential for ourselves and for our children and for our future. However, is the education system in Nagaland, is it something which we can be proud of? Or I would like to have firstly your comments on the state of affairs of education in Nagaland. Starting with Mr. Meadow, please.
When we talk about education, we try to know some things which we are not aware. So education is realizations of our ignorance. And here we have come to learn by reading the books. That is what we call it, learning to know. Here, but then in Nagaland, what is missing, for which we create lots of unemployment, is learning to do is missing. And the last we talk about will be learning to live. These three consist of quality of life. And when we look into the dimensions of any economic development, there are three dimensions. One is quality of life, the other is employment, and last is, we call it self-reliance. Whereas we overemphasize on general education, neglecting the professional, for which what is missing is learning to do and learning to live. Let me illustrate with one example. That is, even if we have learned by reading the books of how to ride a bicycle, you may score 100 out of 100 because you know all the answers of the questions to be asked in exam. Yet, if you have not been given a bicycle, you will not learn how to ride a bicycle. So something missing here in Nagaland is we have not learned to do things. And after learning to do, what do we do is learning to live. When you know how to ride a bicycle, how do you make use of the bicycle to earn for your livelihood? Here, the real quality of life is missing in our education system, thereby creating lots of unemployment youth in Nagaland. Thank you.
Oh, wow. I mean, exactly. That is, we don't even know how to ride a bicycle. We don't know how to use the bicycle, when to use it. Our society, our people, our students, we need to learn to live the quality life as well as to be skilled in whatever work, field of life we are going to venture into.
We have a lot of educated unemployed. But as this is common knowledge, if opportunity comes, are they employable? That's the situation. The quality of education, that also comes into play.
And those were very pertinent observations. So are we really employable? And also, are we really employed properly? And we also want to hear more from our second resource person, Mr. Keviseto, on your opinion on the state of affairs.
When we think of education in our state, I think on the bigger picture, everyone, including the layman, needs to really know what we want from our children and then what kind of society that we want to build up. Every society has its own way and its own visions and own aspirations. And where do you want to focus your attention to is, I think, very important. Do you want to improve the economy, or do you want to increase the level of education in such a way that people from outside are coming in and getting educated? All these are again coming to set of objectives that we need, and that is framed in such a way that we will be able to look forward to it. As of now, what I feel is that we are doing what the government of India wants us to do, and then a set of requirements that are there, passing examinations, board examinations, those certifications that are required, and we just complete those certifications. And as Sir Meadow was rightly pointing out, that's exactly what is happening. So on the political level and from the bureaucratic level, and people who are responsible for education in Nagaland needs to really think, what do we really want from our children? Do we want employable children, or do we want people who can be productive in terms of entrepreneurship,
Right.
or do we want people who can be leaders? All these are issues that we need to settle first, and then we frame curriculum that can sort of generate young people who are equipped with the requirements of our state. And I think that's going to have a lot of impact. I'm saying this because education is in the concurrent list, where the state has got a lot of powers in order to make changes on its own, and say that no, we don't want this that the central government is giving. We want to make our own policies in such a way that we fulfill the aspirations that we have of our people. And I think that's going to be it's a big picture, but that's very crucial in terms of bringing out young people who are productive. We are concerned with employment, but we don't really know what we want from our young people also. So without a clear objective, we are only talking about employment. But when we really know what we want from our young people, we'll be able to motivate them and guide them in the way we see the future of our state also. And so I see it that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
just one point. You were also mentioning parents need to be aware of what they would like their children to
Yeah.
be, and also you kept on saying we. So we meaning, just to clarify.
Yeah, we as educationists, or as common people, I should say, as public, as of now, what I see is that we are just running for things that everyone else does, and you're sending your child to a certain school, and so I also want to send my child to a school, without really knowing what I want my child to have, what I want my child to learn. We are just sending them through a process
Because
that
others
because everyone else is
supposed to
doing
do
it.
like that,
Yeah. So we need a very clear-cut frame of mind in order to know
Mm.
what I want from my child.
Mm.
It is like you are just referring that we really do not know that what actually our children have in their mind. That is a very serious
Yeah.
point. Because what I see is that we actually have this problem that our youngsters, they really do not know. And even their future is, they are not very sure about it. That we have been discussing since long time back. Now I think that our educational policy has really, we have to look into that. Because like supposing we have so many educated youngsters, even as a parent, you can't guarantee actually now that your children will get job after 15 years, 16 years, even after 20 years. Now the professionalism when it comes in, like employable or whatever, there we are not in a position to make it in that line. Because suppose we have a news establishment, for example, there are so many educated people, they are coming in that we want to join as a reporter or something like that. The first thing what I have to check is that not your education qualification actually, whether you can really write any stories on that.
Yeah.
That's the first we are coming in our mind. So that kind of professionalism is not there. Our education policy is totally failed actually in many ways. I just feel like that.
Yeah.
We can just come up that kind of thing. But the first thing is we have seriously pointed out that our children, we are not in a position to know what exactly these youngsters are thinking about their future. That there is a gap.
There need to be more rapport, understanding,
Yes.
perhaps between the parents and children, and teachers and students.
That has to do with orientation at home. Because our parents, when they send the children to school, they have a simple concept in their mind that they will get government job. So even the children, at the right young age, they have been influenced with the government job. So now, you see, they go to school, they have completed their education, but that mindset of government job still there in their mind. That is where we create lots of job seekers, and we don't produce job creators. Job creators in the sense that we need to produce entrepreneurs, where we have to encourage them that you should not depend only on government job. You can do something in your own. That home orientation is very important. What happened in the village? You see, we have treated our children by saying that if you don't do well in school, you will be made to look after the cow, you will be made to cultivate, you will be made to do the agricultural
You'll
work.
become a farmer.
So now our children having that in their mind, thinking that any agricultural work or anything to do with hands is something that
Degrading.
an educated should not do. I think that is the wrong mindset entered into the mind, and right now we cannot even blame the children because that has been thoroughly influenced in their childhood by the parents. Now we have to have reorientation of the education even at home by the parents to tell the children that something like when you read Robert Kiyosaki, it is something like you should not work for money, but you have to work to learn. To learn. I think that kind of education we have to tell our children. That is why our children, they just want to pass so that when they do well, they assure themselves that government job is the only option. Others means they're hopeless people.
Exactly.
Another thing is that career counseling. We're talking about we don't know what our children wants, but our children doesn't know what they want. Sometimes they have no idea what the certain jobs entails, business skills, accounting, and all this. I think if we outline them some guidelines like that, it'll really help.
And we appreciate the Entrepreneurs Associates because they also try to go to many schools and
Right.
institutions and talk about entrepreneurship and the values and the things involved for entrepreneurship. Okay, Mr. Meadow, there was an interesting point you mentioned that our education is now becoming very general. We are really focusing on the general education and not on specifics or perhaps skill-based education. Any comments on this?
We overemphasize on general education, and our government, without having this manpower management system, we blindly, introduce this general education. Thereby,
From outside?
we produced, you see, a lots of, let us say, arts students. You see, we are producing every year 5,000-6,000 graduates, but most of them from general education, neglecting the professional education. This is a serious issue which our government needs to address. We need to open some more professional colleges so that our youngsters, our students, will do something in their own, which we call it self-employment.
Okay. So would these be like in the ITIs or industrial training institutes or what kind of examples, colleges meaning?
Here, one area I have little confusion, even I myself, when I think over it, because we have been sending lots of even, engineerings, but then when they have come back, they are unemployed. Let us say that even engineer studies that they have completed, but they also become job seekers in Nagaland. So I have little confusions of what kind of institution exactly will be, good for our situation as of now.
Okay. For example, in Western countries, there are a lot of demands for tailors or blacksmithies or pipe repairers or this sort of jobs which our ITIs can also produce. So in the future, definitely all this job is being done by non-locals. So is there potential for such traits to be trained to be done?
One thing very embarrassing with our people is even if we want to, tell them that these are the avenues where you can employ, because outsiders are coming to Nagaland and they are easily being employed and they are earning a huge amounts of money. But then our people, even if we ask them, they are not interested as of now. As of now, they are not interested.
So a total change of mindset also,
That is
right?
required. That is
And,
why, as I said, home orientation.
Yes.
Unless home reorientations by the parents, that government job is not the only options for an educated person. There are so many other avenues where we have to rely for our livelihood. We can easily tell them, but we don't have the model
Exactly.
to really demonstrate us.
One area we're doing very well is in carpentry. Many indigenous people have taken up and they're doing excellent jobs in that one. They have learned. So that's a very encouraging sign. And another one is that bricklaying and home constructions. 20 years ago, I saw it. Wow, we're building so much buildings like this. Why aren't there some Nagas getting into it, where they can become manager of the whole, to take over the whole contract like that? We're still depending on others.
We also lack work culture anyway. That is also there. Even if you are highly educated, if you don't have that culture of working, means you cannot work. That is also there, because we have the habit of employing everything. Whatever you can do manually, also you don't want to do it. You want to just order someone and just get it done. But here I just feel like, we said that we should not depend on the government. That is fine. But the government is also responsible about the present generation. Suppose the government will always say that the government jobs are reach a saturation point. But then what is the alternative to the educated youth?
Yeah.
And it is not only educated youth. There are people who are not educated. They are also there. So the government, you see, they will say that you cannot depend on the government jobs. They said it has already reached saturation point. And in fact, Nagaland, if we look the whole system, we cannot really depend on the government now. But at the same time, government should try to create avenues for the different ways. We cannot simply say that you get job, you go to Kerala, you go to others, you do that. It is simply not possible. Maybe out of 100, I think maybe 5%. That is just like that only. It is not simply not possible. Then if you look the whole thing in Nagaland, then actually government has totally failed. There is no policy for the educated, this unemployed youths. It is not necessarily that they will be employed in the government sectors, job sectors. But then government should have the policy how these educated unemployed youth should be absorbed. Maybe you may set up different kind of factories or industries or whatever. Something we have to do it. I don't think this is. I don't see
I
that.
think it's very short-sighted, and no long-term planning for our youth. I think
Yes.
many times.
That's it.
Coming back to the education, about the curriculum and for students, no, is it? You were saying, Mr. Meto, that it's very general, and so can you also specify further? How could we be more specific?
Specific in the sense that whatever we do now is, if you pass by answering some questions in the examination hall, but I think we have to vocationalize.
Yeah,
We should make our
Vocational
students also to do something,
training.
not just attending the classroom syllabus work, but then beyond that, we have to bring out some thing where the students will even participate with hands. So we have to go beyond 3 R's. 3 R's in the sense that modern educations, people talk about 3H educations. People talk about 3H educations in the sense that head, heart, and hands. You see, whatever we have learned, we have to work with our hands. I think without introducing that kind of vocational education, when we do not know, we don't want to do. And firstly, when I say that, I have little confusions about that. One of my nephews, he has done his mechanical engineering. He was a top student. He was one of the top students, even passing out class 10 as well as doing his engineering. He has come back. He said that he doesn't want government job. then he was about to start his work. You see, I have suggested this and that, but then, we find it very difficult to establish. As of now, he catch up and he's doing well, but it has taken almost 5 years. All right, that is why I face problem, at home personally. That is why I say that what kind of course will be suitable for the Nagas. That is why we need to set up even as a special committee, as one of our panelists here, he has rightly said that government is also responsible. It doesn't mean that they should give more government job, but then we have to bring out a policy where our youth will be motivated to do something. We need a drastic change of the system where policy matters.
Perhaps looking at the popularity of music in Nagaland, the government also has tried to raise the music task force or so many other activities. But this is something ongoing. Perhaps that is an example which the government is also looking forward to do something. But you brought up a whole lot of issues.
But music is such a profession which is too luxurious for us as at the moment. It is occasional, where you cannot do it regularly.
But I think a lot of people are also getting income and also being...
No, we appreciate.
Yes.
We appreciate.
And
There
even
is no doubt
satisfaction,
about it.
Emotional.
What I mean to say is, it is something occasional as of now in Nagaland.
Even this, sorry to say that the department which is responsible for looking after about the education system itself is, plagued with a lot of scandals after scandals, scams after scams. It's also one thing that this is discouraging and demoralizing. There's so many things. Actually.
Is it to do also because the maximum number of employees in the state
Yes.
is under education, and
Yes.
perhaps even the in terms of budget,
Yeah,
what
it's
is the
one of
budget
the
for
highest
the
budgets.
salaries?
It's
For
one of the
example,
highest budgets.
could we have some figures if we have?
About 900 crores.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
that is only for the teachers, right?
Yeah.
Compared to the total budget, the salary budget
The
is
highest, the highest,
It occupies 90%.
highest employees.
90%.
It's police department.
Yeah, I think the education
No,
and
it's
in
police.
the police,
Police.
education
Police
and the
is-
police.
yeah.
Yes, it's hardly a
Okay,
matter of
okay.
few hundreds or 1,000 at the most. Otherwise, more or less, both these departments are.
So
And
why,
in fact, these two departments
that's
have the
right.
highest scandals. These two departments have been
Exactly.
enjoying. In fact,
Is it?
That's why,
Mhm.
as I mentioned in the beginning, the government and people who are in education needs to really focus on bringing out a list of things that we need, the list of strengths that we have and what we can do about it and capitalize on it. Then we can come with a policy of education that we want to bifurcate academicians and people who can go for other areas of work, because we need to know what the job market is, and if we don't know the job market and we are generating graduates and every year, this is definitely going to affect us.
so
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Policy
that
is very
correct.
important.
That is
We are
correct.
talking about
Education
sports,
policy,
but,
yes.
there is no facility where a musician can take up music at a school level, come to college level, and then becomes a professional. There's no proper route in that. Proper route of developing that student when he is in the schooling years and then going to college and then becoming professional. We don't have a route because we don't have a policy on that.
Yes, yes.
So in
No,
the same way,
the issue to see what you have been telling is now is coming to the basics of what we are going to
Yeah.
discuss about. See, look about the private schools, right? You see the passing percentage of the students from the private schools.
Mhm.
In fact, the teachers are not trained.
Mhm.
yeah.
But
Comparatively,
how they produce such a good students, I mean,
Exactly.
in terms of
Exactly.
scoring and the passing
Results,
rates.
yeah.
Whereas in the government schools, these people are all trained.
Mhm.
So the question
highly
of
paid.
yes.
Two
So
times,
this is
double
what
the
I feel
salary.
that
Okay.
this is a question of dedication,
Yeah,
commitment
yeah.
is coming there.
Exactly.
But whereas other side is this is the the laxity and the casual kind of manners and other things. We have so many things in the government schools.
I think in this area, Department of Education is not really monitoring the teachers and taking them to account, to task if they are not fulfilling their duties. Some people we hear about not attending schools and drawing their salaries or sending somebody else in their name and then
Yeah.
sharing the salary and those kind of things going on. I think those should be weeded out. If you're not You don't want to be a teacher, don't hold a post. We should come to that. The students of today are losing faith in the
Yes.
government of today, something like that.
Not only students.
No, yeah, because
even
some failure
while,
is there, you know.
even while interacting with the students, like supposing if we had some interaction with students of some private schools, they are much more smarter than the students of the government schools.
So, like exactly. So, since we have a representative from the government department and a representative from the private schools associations, we would like to know the reasons why private schools are performing better, and then government schools also how they could perform better.
No, you see,
Yes.
what is happening in Nagaland is very funny. Because we love the job, but we hate the work.
Hate to work.
We don't want to work, but we love the job because of the salary for the ends of the month.
So, how one could love the job which one has?
No, you see, that is the area of concern which we have been discussing for quite some time now.
We are not loving the job. Actually, we love the salary. I'm telling you. If you love the job, I'm also a journalist. I love the job. I love writing and everything.
Yes.
That produces a good result. But in our cases, we only love money, salary, drawing without attending. If they really love the job, mean what they're supposed to do, I think we will produce a good results. I'm telling
We
you.
love
Okay.
the job, still then we hate the work of the job.
Okay.
You see, we love teachers because we want the salary of the teacher.
Okay.
So that job, I'm a teacher, you see, in such and such school, we're proud of it. But the work, you see, you don't want to perform. Not that we had the work as such, that is. Now you see now, there are so many...
That is in government schools.
Yeah, there is here.
Yeah, of course.
For
of
example.
course.
That is why here, when we talk about most of the government school teachers, they are not sending their children to their own school. They send their children to private schools. That is why everyone, they would like to send their, you see, nobody would like to send their children to the, you see, that is the funny things happening.
Exactly.
Now here, when we talk about all this, I think we have to emphasize one point, that is power. Now, when we talk about power, let me define that power means reciprocal desires.
Okay.
You see, we want to do something, the reciprocal desires I mean to say here. So now, different kinds of powers that we have. One power, we call it violence. You use force. So this, some people fear you. That is why, they do the work. So now, even in the school, they don't understand the difference of fear and respect. You see, the students, they don't care how much you know. They just want to know how much you love them. That is where they don't see that you love them. That is where that reciprocal desire is not happening. So the power here, we call that violence as the most ancient power on earth. So we should not exercise that kind of power, because wicked people also do good things, but out of fear. Just fear. That is why you do something. And the other power is, we call it economics power. We call it wealth. We call it utility power also. That is what we talk about is greed factors. If you do this, I'll give you this money, chocolate. You see, but what is most important here, let me talk about that, that is knowledge factor. Let me talk about that legitimate power. Legitimate power is you don't want to control with violence, you don't want to control with utility power as such, but you control yourself. You control yourself to be somebody. So you are trusted, you are respected, you are honored. That is where you create more leaders. That is not happening in our government sector. The power is being abused. We have to be more sincere of what we do.
Earlier you were connecting your points with the government school,
Right.
but this has got to do with general.
No, I mean to say that the motivation is lacking. The teachers, you see, they're also getting lots of money, but they don't do the work. That is why even students, they don't respect. That is why the good students, they don't go even to government schools now. So I'm talking relating to that.
Okay, great.
But
great.
this motivation, I do not know.
Great example.
But these teachers, these are all trained teachers. How these motivational characters are not coming in their blood? I do not understand. Because they're trained to teach. I mean, just I feel.
No.